Hello, everyone. Welcome to WealthWise 2025, Week 40, the Great Wealth Transfer to Stewardship, Systems, and Sustainable Legacy. This is Dr. Rhonda Farrell, your success strategist. And welcome back, because we've spent the last 4 weeks designing for volatility, longevity, and transformation. Now we enter the closing chapter of this year's journey, where wealth transcends numbers and becomes the narrative. The coming decade will see the greatest, largest handoff of capital, companies, and creativity and innovation in human history. But money without meaning dissolves quickly. Week 40 is all about ensuring that the great wealth transfer doesn't just move assets, it moves alignment. Our goal is for you to create a living legacy system that compounds value across generations, financially, socially, and spiritually. So why does this moment matter so much? Because over 84 trillion folks in US wealth will shift hands by 2024. Globally, hundreds of trillions will reshape markets and our philanthropy view. There are two major factors: fragility and opportunity. In the former, up to 90% of family wealth evaporates within 3 generations. The root cause, it's not markets, it's mindsets, silence, assumption, and the lack of shared purpose. So what is the latter? Opportunity. Those who codify values, train next-gen leaders, and align capital to impact will turn this transfer into a force for greater innovation and stability for your generations to come. So the insight here is the real inheritance is not only about the money, it's the mechanisms and mindsets that we're teaching for strong stewardship. This is the moment to build them if you've not already done so. So what do we need to do? Well, we need to map your legacy system. We need to define the purpose for your wealth. What is it for? Freedom, service, regeneration. We need you to write a purpose statement so that future decisions are anchored in and aligned. We need you to design your wealth operating system. Again, use the 5 buckets that we've spoken about before: resilience, regeneration, community, learning, and joy, to direct your cash flows with intentionality. Next, we need to document the governance and rules. We need to clarify who gets to decide what, who gets to execute, and how those conflicts are resolved when they arise. So families with governance manuals retain wealth and support long-term unity. Our takeaway from this is that legacy is a living system, not a single event. Design it with the same discipline you apply to any enterprise portfolio. If someone read your legacy charter 100 years from now, what values would you want them to see in action? That's the thing that needs to get included. So the next is empowering the next stewards, because we need to move from entitlement to apprenticeship. We need to give our heirs responsibility before we give them the resources. We need to start with joint investment committees or impact projects to let them train up to get great outcomes. We need to integrate AI and analytics and equip the next generation to use AI, both for due diligence, as well as philanthropy tracking. And lastly, to enable greater entrepreneurial designs on how we can utilize that wealth to optimize outcomes. And again, cross-skill development. So it's probably important that you get a well-rounded heir. So how can we rotate those heirs and future leaders to your enterprise world through finance, operations, community impact roles before they actually receive decision authority? You want to test them out to see what are their capabilities, core competencies, and what's just resonates with them the most, and then plug and play together. Then next, emotional intelligence and ethics. This undergirds everything because it teaches about conflict navigation, empathy, and values-based decision-making. Wealth should amplify who we are and what we stand for. So how are you going to train your heirs to carry both your values and your vision? Both must go on. Next is measuring maturity and momentum. Again, we can assess our family and enterprise maturity across 4 domains. So first is we need to make the framework. Sometimes we have 4 stages, sometimes there's 5. For this example, we're going to say there's 4: emerging, developing, establish, and optimize. And for our domains, we're going to say we have a people and education domain, a customer client value domain, a testing and measuring domain, and a technology and automation domain. All of these together are going to enable your heirs to optimize both your values and your vision. So in the people and education, maybe learning, planned succession, continuous learning culture. On the customer and client value, perhaps we need to examine transformational value creation. In the testing and measuring, perhaps we need to look at defining KPIs or implementing a predictive insight system for the investments that we're adding to our portfolio. And lastly is the technology and automation that we use. Are they connected platforms? Are they smart and adaptive, etc.? So we suggest identifying just one gap, then action a 30-day plan to close that divide, because this allows you to cherry pick where the greatest advances are that you and your organization can make on behalf of your future wealth transfer. So a couple case studies. One is an enterprise transition. A founder created a leadership incubator, rotating next-gen members through all functions before earning any voting rights. I know I talked about this last time, but why did I repeat it? Because it helps create the capabilities and the skills and the strengths, and it helps you with your collaboration and unity, which ultimately turns into strong alignment, which then becomes your ecosystem's competitive advantage. So don't not pay attention to this very important area. So the challenge for this week for us is draft or update your legacy charter. We've mentioned this multiple times, but it's so important because this is the baseline of all further decisioning. It defines your purpose, it defines your values, and it defines the governance constructs. It includes, again, your values and your vision, and it puts in any required guardrails that your family will need to, or your trustees, etc., will need to be cognizant of. Run a family finance forum, perhaps within the next 32 weeks to 30 days. Bring your heirs, partners, or key stakeholders into an open dialogue about all of this. and identify one impact investment or client value initiative that you want to be able to be proud to pass down to them. What resonates with them? What gets them excited? Who is raising their hand to help you move that forward? And then post at hashtag WealthWise 2025. What legacy system are you building and who will it serve next? So in closing, the Great Wealth Transfer 2 is not just a financial event. It's a leadership audition. Some will inherit accounts. Others will inherit accountability. WealthWise leaders don't merely accumulate, they architect, they convert capital into capacity, resources into resilience, and profit into purpose. So as you enter into the fourth quarter of our final chapter of 2025 journey, ask yourself, are you leaving an inheritance or a system that's viable for the long term that can last multiple generations? Have you aligned people's principles and processes to sustain value over multiple generations? And does your wealth create freedom not only for you, but for those that you love and want to serve? Here's to a future where your wealth outlasts you and your impact multiplies for generations. Again, this is Dr. Rhonda Farrell, the Success Strategies, wrapping up week 40 of WealthWise 2025.